What's going on, guys? Time for some more Minnesota Vikings franchise, and we are finally getting to the off-season here. The Dolphins were Super Bowl champions, and we have the 6th pick in the NFL draft, so it's time to start rebuilding this team and looking forward to Season 4 and hopefully a brighter future. I've been doing a lot of in-season scouting and going through and trying to find what holes on this team we can fix. And so hopefully we can find some good prospects in this year's draft and also in free agency. I know a lot of guys are telling me that I should make a big splash in free agency, and well, I have the cap room to do so, but those top players really don't make it to free agency. I haven't seen very many guys with over 90 overall, and so you're not going to see an Asamoah in free agency. You just don't really see that. Teams tend to re-sign those guys. But first things first here, our head coach's contract expired, and so it's time to look at all of our options and try to go through and see what we can do to make this team better. Obviously, the coaches have a direct effect on the players. I'm looking here at Eddington. He has an increase for tackle and man coverage. Timothy Hickson has an increase for man coverage and zone coverage. I'm really looking at ways I can beef up the run defense, and that's like pursuit, block shedding, play recognition. And you can see here, Takeo Spikes, Derek Mason, Chad Clifton are now ex-players returning as coaches. That's pretty cool. London Fletcher makes the middle linebacker better, and those are nice, but if I don't really want to focus on just one position, I want an all-around effect, and so we are going to fire our offensive coordinator as well and our defensive coordinator, although man coverage and pursuit is pretty important, but I think there's some really good options in here. And for our offensive coordinator, we're going to sign Jack Lumen, who gives us increases to pass block strength and pass block footwork, because the last 2 seasons we've led the league in sacks given up. And we're going to sign Casey Bradley as our defensive coordinator, giving us increases to play recognition and pursuit. And then, head coach, I really wanted to bring Mike Tomlin back to Minnesota. He was here as a defensive coordinator years ago, and the Steelers are just fighting with me at this contract here. I spent like a good minute and a half or so trying to get this deal done, and just nothing was working. I kept increasing the money, and I guess he just wanted to stay with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and so we're going to have to look in other territory. I didn't want to keep Leslie Frazier. He does some good things for the secondary on here, but I was looking in another direction. And I think I found something that could really help us out a little bit, especially with the passing game, and that is Derek Mason, increasing the wide receiver stamina, route running, and awareness. Basically, we have a lot of low-rated receivers, and hopefully we can create some new weapons for Christian Ponder with Derek Mason as our head coach. So that's a pretty unique decision, and we'll see if this works out for us, but hopefully it does. And right here you can see how guys have progressed or regressed. We've seen Kevin Williams and Jared Allen go down in overall. Nate Potter went up. Morris Claiborne skyrocketed after what I thought was kind of a poor season. And here you can see other guys' potential as well. And so Emmanuel Arsenault is one of those guys who I thought had a really bright future on this team, but really I have to get him the ball 50, 60 times if he wants to get his skills up. And so I think the important part is limiting our playmakers and not trying to have all these different receivers and guys I'm throwing the ball to, and really focus on getting certain guys the ball so they can get better. And it's also very important to get guys playing time. So when we have big leads or we're losing by a lot, we have to put in backups. But now we have to go into the retirements, and we are going to lose Steve Hutchinson and Plaxico Burress. 2 important players. I mean, Plaxico, low overall, 77 speed, but I used him in the proper way. I just threw him balls high, and he jumped up and grabbed them. And now, look at the rest of these retirements. These are all a lot of big-name players. Look at the Seahawks losing Aaron Smith, Brian Urlacher, Quentin Jammer. There's a lot of big names retiring in here. And we get to the re-signing aspect of the offseason, and this is where it gets kind of cluttered because we have over 30 guys with expired contracts. I didn't do a great job at looking where we had a lot of expiring contracts in terms of year and managing that accordingly, but luckily salary cap really isn't an issue because guys don't demand realistic contracts in here, and they really take low ball offers, and that's something I think they need to improve on. If a star player is in his 3rd contract, he's going to want big money, and you're going to see here some of the things I'm able to do that I don't think is necessarily realistic. Like, Kevin Williams is not going to take $2 million a year. This year he made $6 million, so I'm not thinking that for his 12th season he wants to make 2. Jared Allen, it's kind of the same thing over here. 11th year, he's costing a little bit more money, but it's not really a big deal. And guys wanted me to get rid of Jared Allen, Percy Harvin, but realistically, these guys do have an impact. Obviously, Percy's been hurt a lot, so I got to keep my options open with wide receiver, honestly. Percy Harvin's one of my favorite players, so I have a hard time getting rid of him, and so I do re-sign him, but he kind of is on the hot seat a little bit. We'll re-sign Jim Kleinsasser, glad he hasn't retired yet. Toby Gerhart, $650,000. I don't think that's realistic. Remy Ayadel, he's going to cost me $1.5 million just because I like his block shedding and him coming in as a backup defensive tackle. I re-signed a lot of the offensive linemen, mainly for depth, because I look to really improve that in this offseason. And Chris Prozinski was a guy I signed late in the year. He has a potential, so I'm really wondering if he can turn into anything at safety. Brandon Fusco had a decent season, so we'll give him a re-sign. And Brian Robinson has not gotten much better in terms of overall in his ratings, so he gets a one-year deal. E-Man, he's going to get 4 years, not costing me a lot of money. Re-sign Noel Devine, and going forward, Dondre Reed, he's a good backup as well. I re-signed a lot of these guys for depth because they're quality. Antoine Barnes is an awesome backup linebacker, and Chris Cluey, is giving him a 7-year contract because it doesn't really matter. Brandon Burton, I debated it, but I went against it because his awareness is just so low. Cedric Griffin, I really thought I was not going to re-sign him, but I have an idea for him, and so I do give him a contract. And Shanko, I really don't want to have to go out and find another tight end, and I'm starting to go away from those 2 tight end sets, but maybe I'll have to go back to doing some of those. I'm not planning on really addressing tight end in the offseason right now. We have Kyle Rudolph, and here's all the guys I did not put contracts on. Hussein Abdullah, Tim Tebow, Brandon Burton, those are the bigger names on here, and there's some guys that I don't think have as big of an impact, and here I signed some guys late in the season that have F potential, so obviously they're not going to turn into anything. But then I did sign Ronell Lewis because we just need the depth. And cornerback is really one of the things that I think is a strong point on this team going forward with our youth. And then just looking at the blocking statistics here, Nate Potter, great pass blocker. But definitely addressing some of the holes on there is important this offseason, especially with the retirement of Steve Hutchinson. And so now it's time to do free agent bidding, and here's like the top players. LeGarrette Blount, Michael Turner, there is not much here. Look at the wide receivers. I don't want to take someone who's 30, so that limits my options to Marquise Mays and Michael Crabtree pretty much for these top receivers. I look at speed, I look at acceleration, but obviously I can get past that if someone's tall. I put one on Taylor Price because he has a lot of speed. We'll see if he can have a spot on this team. And I was just looking at offensive line, and it's just there is no opportunities for big signings. Those type of players get re-signed and stick with their teams. Traditionally, anyways. Obviously, Michael Turner's a free agent, so it's not going to always be perfect. But there's just it's not like the real NFL where there is some big free agent signings and guys going to new teams. So I do want to make a big splash, but really my options are limited. Cornerback, I don't really think it's a big hole for us with our youth. But safety, I want to drastically improve it, and the top-rated guy is the guy I didn't re-sign. So it can be hard to rebuild your team through free agency, and that makes the draft that much more important. You got to be able to get that top talent in the first few rounds when there's opportunities for high potential players. And just looking here, we have the lead right now on Taylor Price. And then I was looking at Michael Crabtree because he's younger. He's got all right speed. He's 6'1". And Jacksonville's currently on him. But with 2 seconds left, I put a bid on him. 5-year contract, $18.77 million. Need another option out wide. And so we're going to Michael Crabtree. We completed that, and we did get him signed. So we look now at left guard. And I found a veteran that I think can hold it down for a year or two if we can address that in Ryan Lilja. One thing I did with this offseason compared to the rest is that I spent a lot more time planning it out about what positions I thought I needed to address and what was the most important. So I was looking at a lot of statistics and just trying to figure out the best scenarios for us. And if you saw above there, Brandon Burton is going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar now. He's got 99-man coverage, but with that awareness, it's hard to really use that. And here is all the players that we won in the bids anyways. Taylor Price, Michael Crabtree, Eric Norwood, Nate Stupar, Ryan Lilja, and Andre Smith at right tackle. And then I thought I had to make this decision right here. Noel Devine has like 65 catching. He's very injury prone. And I almost traded him to the Bears, but I'm like, wait a minute. You don't trade within your division. So yeah, it's a 7th round pick. It usually does not amount to much. But here's looking at some pro days, and Blake Luters was a guy I was looking at an outside linebacker with 89 block shedding. That is extremely good. And I want a fast outside linebacker who's strong and can really help in the run game because we have a lot of troubles stopping the run. And then for first round talent, I was looking through, I was just not sure what I could address in the first. And here's Marquise Simmons. He has 89 speed and he has got really good attributes, it looks like, and he's a third round talent, so that's someone I was targeting. Blake Luters, I was targeting him for individual workouts. And then looking here at the potential, Craig Lawson, free safety, is an A potential with an 82 overall. Keyston Moore is an A potential with 82 overall as well, a same position, free safety. And then I went to look at Alvin Bailey, a right guard, and he has B potential, so that would be a good pick. But the two other linebackers I was looking at, they both had C potential, and so I focus on A and B because those are going to be your higher 80s, lower 90s players. And Alvin Bailey, here you see his stats, 87 run block and 78 pass block with a B potential. So going to the NFL draft, that was one of the guys I was looking at. And so here we go. We got to start building this team. The St. Louis Rams are on the clock for the first pick in the draft, and I was really confused about what I wanted to address in the first round. I would have loved to take an offensive lineman or something, but I didn't really see my scouts telling me a lot of these guys were projected in those rounds. Wide receiver was obviously an issue I've talked about. And look in here. Look who was the first pick in the draft. A fullback. So, yeah, that needs to be fixed as well. And after my pro days, I was targeting Keyston Moore. That was the guy I wanted in the first round. A potential, he's fast, and we need a safety because our safeties have struggled so much in this series. A free safety was taken, Nicole Whitley, but we're looking at someone else. Kwame Gathers was someone else I was looking at. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, because I want a replacement for Kevin Williams soon, but I think that's a first round need for us at this point anyways. And so we have the opportunity now to take Keyston Moore here in the first round. We also could take Marcus Lattimore, but I decided to trade down in here. Just 3 picks, and we get a bonus third round to the New York Jets, and they would draft Osahan Irabor with that pick. And I just wish you could see the NFL teams that these guys are going to, because I have no clue who got Tyler Bray. And so we do get Keyston Moore. If you remember last year, I was raving about Dante Hightower. He was taken right before we were on the clock. And so we had to go with Vontaze Burfict. And now it's time for the second round, looking for some guys who may have slipped, and Marcus Lattimore was drafted. Once again, I wish I could see which team he went to as a bright young running back there. And with our second pick, I wanted to take an offensive lineman. I didn't address that in last year's draft, and I did a lot of scouting on linemen this year to try to find someone in the first few rounds that could be a franchise player. And I could have taken Tyrann Mathieu. A lot of guys wanted me to, but I took Alvin Bailey, a right guard with B potential, a guy that I scouted as pro day. And now, third pick, I'll look at Marquise Simmons and Blake Luters, but with that potential, I think I have to go in another direction. And offensive line is still an issue. Chris DeGear let up a lot of sacks last year at right tackle. And just looking to see if anybody slipped. Only one second-round prospect slipped to us, that's a cornerback, so it's not something I'm going to look at. And James Logan is here, the top receiver that was projected for me. And so I'm going to take James Logan here, 6'2", 199 pounds, need a top outside receiver. And so we take him in the third round, and with our bonus pick we got from the Jets in that trade down, I took Morgan Moses, a right tackle, to hopefully shore up that position. We also have Andre Smith over there, so hopefully one of those can turn into something. And I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name, but he is a right end. And I'm not set here on Robison's future with my team. And Jared Allen is getting old. With the 5th round pick, we're going to take Victor Gray, a defensive tackle, and another one, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name either, from Boise State. So we take 2 defensive tackles. And now we look at cornerback in the 6th round, Alicia Olabode. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name either. We take him, who's the last cornerback available. And this guy had like a 99 questionable overall, so I'm just going to draft him because it's the 7th round. This is where I take my chances. Take Telvin Smith, and I'm drafting this one right here, solely based on name. Ace Sanders, wide receiver out of South Carolina. And so that was our last pick in the draft. And now, going forward, we will begin Season 4 preseason next up against the Denver Broncos, where we'll get to see some of our rookies in action and hopefully working towards a brighter future on this team going forward in Season 4. Be sure to leave some feedback on how you guys thought I treated this offseason in terms of the draft and who I kept and who I signed in free agency. But I'll have the preseason coming at you guys very soon, so thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.